Going into custom metals, I knew my personal project was going to be the big wheel. And then for a school project, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I ended up making a engine stand with Tyler Snowberger and a senior named Jesse for a bow motor that you'd be able to test it on with the lower unit and the propeller. And those two ate up so much time. I didn't have enough time to get to my client project, which was going to be a table frame, like a coffee table frame for my friend. And I mean, I'm not upset about it, and he isn't either. He's gonna do it next year when he takes custom metals, and that wasn't going to be. I mean, he wasn't gonna pay me much. He was stingy about it. Um, so not a huge loss there. For a repair project, I don't have much around my house that's metal, and nothing that would be a day and a half, you know, to fix. So I had nothing to work with. And after talking to Phillips about it, he's like, it's cool, you know, this death machine you have is eating up so much time, has been, enough of a fiasco where, you know, you've learned enough, you're good. I don't care. And so I'm happy about that. And then all the machining that ate up a lot of the time too. So really only got 3 of the 5 projects done if you count machining as a project. Otherwise, 2 of the 4. Drift Trike video portfolio number 1, I guess. Phillips is in the background making a lot of noise. So this is my motor mount for that motor over here. This is a 16 horse motor, and right now I'm working on getting a new exhaust manifold because this sits here and my head is going to be right where that exhaust is. So I'm working on that. There's a other Kawasaki motor that I got for Christmas for the same project, and turns out parts are impossible to find, and it was missing some fairly important parts. So I bought this. Alright, so this is update 2 or 3 of the big wheel project. And I got the frame today. It's off of a Huffy slider, which is a big wheel. But I'm going to weld this on to there. I'm probably going to cut off this seat mount, and then I'll make a new one so I can fit on that S10 seat right there. I took this fork and these handlebars off of this bike right here today, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get these handlebars and the fork back in sync, because this will not screw in there, and I'm a little bit frustrated with it, but so I figured I'd record this. But so far that's that. I am going to repaint this black. I'm going to probably repaint all of this black except for that wheel. Part 3. This is the third update for the big wheel. And so far this week on the frame, the first thing I did was I drilled 4 holes here for my seat because there's screws on the bottom, so I can just bolt that on and it'll give me more versatility than if I were to weld it. Then I began to drill holes for the motor mount, but I had to change this because these were too far apart when I had got the engine on there. So I cut them both off and made some new ones, re-welded it so that they used to be here, now they're here. And that. Then it turned out that this was too short, so I added 3 inches of tubing right there, so now it'll fit on there nicely. This is the front part of the frame, and here I had to cut off the other side of this. It used to be just a whole flange, so now it's got one, and that'll just sit on there nicely. So I have to weld that and make a bracket for that, and then drill those holes, and then when I get the rest of my drivetrain, the axle, wheels, and such, that'll come probably next week. That'll be done. This is the exhaust that I have to put a heat-resistant coating on because it heats up really fast. I don't want that to melt, so that'll be the new exhaust. And yeah, that's what I've done this week. So the big wheel, didn't record it, didn't take pictures of it, unfortunately. And so I had that front part of the Huffy welded onto the C-mount and engine mount. And when I had gotten my parts that had the sprockets and clutch and the wheels and axle, the sprocket didn't fit inside that motor mount. So rather than modifying the frame, which would have taken a lot more time and more money than the time I had, I came up with this decision to start over and redesign the frame. So it was back to square one. And with the help of Phillips, we came up with a new design that would probably be better, and it's still in its earlier development stages. But we'll see how that goes. It's not going to be done by the end of this year. I'm going to see how far I can get on it by the end of June 2nd. And then next year, come back to school and I'll try to finish it. And it'll be, my guarantee is that it'll be done before then the year's out next year. Because then that's it. The school project I did was a boat engine stand so that Phillips could test it with the lower unit and the propeller on it. And he basically came to me and said, alright, I needed a engine stand, and I'm going to put that boat motor on it. It needs to be 6 foot by 4 foot. Do it. I did it, got the 2-inch tube metal, and cut it up. It came to about 5 7/8, and then 4 by 4 feet. And it ended up being too big, but it's not really that big of a deal to have it to be too big. So I got the base all welded up, got the casters on it. 6 by 4 foot by 4 foot engine mount, and that boat motor is going on it right now. I'm working on making the trapezoids that the feet will rest on. And I ran into a couple problems when I was welding it. It was not level, so I had to grind it off and then re-weld it. And the first time when I tried to weld it, I didn't have the gas on all the way, so it was pretty crappy welds. So I grounded those off and re-welded it, put casters on it, and with that I guess I welded these two, this caster that doesn't turn, and I welded this on that side where it turns, and I welded that one over here so it wouldn't move. So I cut those off and replaced them. And then it came to be the trapezoids that I had to make. And before I could even get measurements to figure out how high I needed it to be, I had to fix the cherry picker because up until then the boat engine had been sitting on that. And sometime during the third quarter, I remember the chain had broken. We walked in one day and it just landed on the floor. So I had the job of fixing the chain links and then rehooking it up. And then once that was all done, that ate up about a day. Once that was all done, got it all set up, and it was about 27 inches off the ground, if I remember correctly. And then um, it was just Pythagorean theorem, going back to math. And I then, I was like, oh, real world application, you know, and I'm glad I know the Pythagorean theorem. But the way I had done it as because I was used to it just being a right triangle, not the added top that a trapezoid has. So I had counted for it as if it was just one right triangle rather than, an added top to it as a trapezoid would be. So the way it was set up was that I had made it, 45, 45, it'll work out fine, and it's all 27 inches, it'll all work. So it went like this, and then the bar was across the top. It can't do that. It had to be a trapezoid. So angles had to be changed, and the top one was had to be more obtuse, and the bottom one had to be more acute. And the bottom one was about 53 or 35 rather than a 45. And then the top one was like a 123. So it might have been 58 degrees rather than 45 on the bottom. Not sure on that, but I had Tyler Snowberger, if I didn't mention already. He was enlisted to help me work on that, and when I had gotten all the math figured out, that was when he really came in and helped me get the rest of it all cut up and tack welded on there. And then when it came to be the point where we had to drill the holes in the top of the trapezoid so that we could get the engine mount feet to sit on there, ended up cutting these off the trapezoids so I could drill holes for the mounts of these feet on the motor here and over there. What we found out here is I talked to Phillips a little bit ago, but he was asking me about drilling a hole on the bottom too for getting another nut. But then I told him the reason we didn't do that, because we thought of that yesterday, the reason we didn't do that is because this comes up and then you'd have this conflicting with that. Jesse is a senior. He was enlisted and he helped us, after that, got all the holes drilled and then got it all welded on. And when it came time to mount it on, it was a little bit of a pain in the neck because it didn't line up correctly because the stand came onto the cherry picker, but it would hit the end of it. You had to push on the engine to get it to go over the actual stand. So once that was all on there and taken care of, we welded that on there, and the engine was bolted onto the thing already, so it was done deal. We weren't finished yet. Phillips wanted me to put on that lower unit. That thing, I'll tell you, that's heavy. Like, that is heavy. And I didn't record this either. So we tore that down, tore it apart, and just had to take apart the whole lower unit just because it wouldn't go all the way in. It was not in sync. It was either the engine was in gear or it was in neutral, and the lower unit was in gear or it was in neutral. They were opposites of each other, so they wouldn't go in all the way, and it just didn't work. So Phillips and I tore that down during fourth block TA and got it all down to where we could get it on there, and we got it on there, and we were done. And it was bittersweet, but it was done. So, didn't have time for the client project, and didn't have time for the repair project. Machining, did that, but learned a lot. What went wrong with that big wheel? It was just more of a, I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it. It's all part of the learning process. You feel stupid for a little bit, but then it's like, all right, get up. Let's finish this, and it'll be done. And I have confidence in myself. I mean, the beginning of the quarter, those welds were crappy, you know, and so this time I'll be able to, kind of take my time more and do a better job on the welds. And the welds have improved uh, greatly. And I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm thinking that big wheel is going to be solid.